Hello and welcome to the England B Team podcast, a football podcast brought to you by an Englishman who wasn't good enough to make it as a professional footballer.
And an Irishman who wasn't good enough to play for England.
There we go. My name's Joe and this is my co-host Gareth, and we're back once again after a very short summer break, and we're here to talk about all things football.
How was your summer break?
Very nice.
Where have you been? You've been everywhere, haven't you?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time in Spain.
Yeah. Any football? Oh no, I was season.
No, it was the off season. That sounds quite American.
That does sound
It was
quite
pre-season, let's say. So no, but I was of course following the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, all those sort of things. Transfers. Let's not talk about transfers.
Yeah, we're not.
We need to do an episode actually one day on Chelsea's transfers.
Well, let's wait till the transfer window closes because they've got 47 more players to sign before tomorrow.
Oh man, but no, it's good to be back. Of course, we kept the videos flowing, the clips flowing,
and how professional that we pre-recorded some episodes as well.
Of course,
we treat you guys very well here in this podcast.
So yeah, it was a summer break for us, but the videos were still coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, how are you?
I didn't really have a break, to be honest. I sort of hung about. I went to Ireland for a little while, went home, didn't get any football in. No. I would like to. I'm going back home again in a few weeks. I'm going to get some Irish League football in, I think.
Very nice.
When I say Irish League, I mean the Northern League. But I'd love to get a bit of that in.
Yeah,
and then obviously season's back now, so I've been back into it, watching football, going to a couple of games. I was going mental without having football. Honestly, I lose my mind.
I mean, of course, there was still lots of football. Of course, we had the Women's World Cup. Which had
to be fair. Although it broke my
friendlies. Heart. Yeah, I mean, I was watching the final in Spain. With a Spanish family, which was
so they were delighted, I'm assuming.
Yeah, very happy.
Yeah.
And of course I'm happy when Spain win, but when it's at the expense of England,
it still hurts as much when it's the women's team. It still hurts just as much. When are England never just going to do it? Man, it hurt me more because I actually thought, no, these girls have definitely got it. They're good.
Yeah.
And then so
next year,
another heartbreak, another summer, another England heartbreak.
There we go, standard by now. But
we're back. We're back. We're here.
Happy to be back.
We've got a great podcast today as well.
What are we doing today then, Gareth?
Well, yeah, I suppose this is one that's been in the pipeline for a while now.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this for a while, especially because I think it was something we'd both be good at.
Yeah.
But I think I wanted to save it until we got a bit of experience as podcasters.
Of course.
And now they're obviously very professional.
Yeah, now we're so pro.
Slick and smooth. Yeah, we're ready to do this. So I've entitled today's episode, I had this in my head a while, I just wanted to do a Bayer Leverkusen a love letter.
I like it. Yeah.
So it's a football club that we're both quite relatively new to since we've lived in Germany.
Of course, yeah, for sure.
We've both, I think it's fair to say, fell in love with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're officially a fan, I'd say.
Well, we talked about this. You haven't cried over them yet, so
true.
When you get a tear in,
first episode.
But when you get a tear in, you'll be back.
I'm more like I would say my favourite club in Germany easily.
There you are. That's all we're looking for.
But I wouldn't say I'm at I'll never be at the Chelsea level because Chelsea.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, but
they're a very close second Leverkusen now for me.
Yeah, I really do. I really like them, and it's great to live in this area and be able to have a top class team to.
And it is a strange team. There's a strange in the good sense of the word, but the connection with the club, the fans, the city, it's all quite unique. It's not quite what you think it's going to be when you come to Germany. You hear about Bayer Leverkusen and we see Champions League football, great players.
That's the thing, that's why
there's something off about, not off about it, but different.
Actually, I think I was going to talk about this a bit later, but while we're on the topic now, actually. So
let's go.
When I was in England, watching European football, watching Champions League, Chelsea, following them, always assumed that Bayer Leverkusen were one of the biggest clubs in Germany because they're always in European football, always seem pretty well supported, and of course they are, but the scale of the club compared to Bayern, Dortmund, of course,
even things like Schalke or Hamburg,
I don't want to say smaller, but they're nowhere near the.
I'd say in terms of overall support, yes, definitely smaller. Yeah.
So because I always thought of them Bayer Leverkusen easly one of the top 4 clubs in Germany,
well, in terms of success, certainly in the last 20 years they would be. But in terms of overall support, nearly success. Yeah, we'll get into that now. Which is the reason I support them, to be honest, main reason. But yeah, it's a strange club in that sense.
How did it start then for you with Leverkusen?
Okay, I will.
Apart from living here, of course.
Okay, well, the early days watching them, I was always aware of them as a kid. I think that 2002 team, Michael Ballack.
I think he watched a bit more European football than I did when I was younger.
Well, I'm a little bit older than you, not much, okay? Before people start getting in the comments, this is what a young man looks like in Belfast. But
I don't remember the Bundesliga being on TV as much.
But do you remember Champions League being on ITV?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about then. That kind of, because they played a lot of English teams around that time. I was about 10, 11. Yeah. So they would have played, they played United and Liverpool and Blackburn, and then later on they played Chelsea.
Yeah, I remember one of the Chelsea games against Chelsea. I like at the Bayer Arena, Dirdiok, do you remember him?
Oh yeah,
Swiss striker. He scored the last minute
header
against Chelsea.
Was that another year Chelsea won it though?
It could have been. I can't remember. It was around that time. It was like between 2008 2012.
Yeah, I feel.
But
like
that's one of my.
But yeah, that was my introduction to them. I suppose I was aware of them. Like a lot of English speakers, I thought that they were Bayern Leverkusen and not Bayer.
I think we all made that mistake.
Yeah, that seems to be a fairly common one. Then when you come here, it's a big and a very important difference, which we'll get into maybe at some point, because I'll try and dispel some of these not myths but misconceptions about the club that we had. But I would have enjoyed them at that time. I like the football they played. They always had those really great cult players, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, that's also for me. Like, of course, apart from living in this area, I think once I got to like 16, I really started to find German football interesting. Just before university, and then I did my study abroad year in Dortmund, which was, of course, one of my main reasons was to go watch football. Yeah. And so around that time, I started watching more Bundesliga, and there's something about Leverkusen that was just, I think it's the players, like, especially, of course, before that, they had Ballack, and then Havertz. I also remember, like, Gonzalo Castro, Sidney Sam, Julian Brandt. Who was the goalkeeper they had?
They had a couple. They had René Adler,
him, and there's a Brazilian as well, Renato Augusto.
Yeah,
so those sort of players are just like, I don't know, they kind of stuck with me.
There was an attraction to that kind of player.
I didn't really think much about it then. I was like, it's a cool team.
You don't,
I probably thought the same about like Dortmund as well, who I also have a soft spot for since I lived there, but I'd say less intense as I would for Leverkusen.
You develop a soft spot and then you use that as a curiosity to go and find out what the club's about.
And especially when you're living abroad. So when I was in England, I'd watch Chelsea as much. I mean, it wasn't TV all the time, but I'd try to go to Stamford Bridge as much as possible. Yeah. And you kind of miss that when you're not living.
And we've sang the praises many times in this podcast about the experience of live German football is something else.
Yeah. And of course, I think when we both moved here, we wanted like an adopted German club.
That was my first thing. I think when I came here, I was like, I need to get a team. And to be honest, again, like a lot of people coming here, obviously we live in Cologne. I didn't know that this region was so densely populated. There's so many teams around here. You're almost spoiled for choice. But when I saw that Bayer Leverkusen were nearby, I just remember, Michael Ballack was there.
Yeah, I think a lot of my friends are also so surprised at how close Leverkusen is to Cologne.
Yeah.
It's like 15 minutes on the train. It's crazy.
Essentially, distance-wise, not culturally-wise, distance-wise, essentially a suburb.
Yes.
Culturally wise, it's very much so not a suburb of Cologne. But I think that's where I fell in love with them. I saw they were close by. I was like, I'll pop down and go see a game or two. Got tickets. And then that was it. It was love at first sight. After that, I was just sucked into the club. I got more and more into it. Met more fans. Got more involved in the culture. And one thing led to another. And now I consider myself the biggest ultra in the...
Of course.
No, but I'm a pretty hardcore fan. Like, they've become a pretty big part of my life.
Away days as well.
Done a couple of away games. Yeah, got my membership and everything, fan club membership,
of course,
all that kind of stuff. So
I
should, obviously I've said in this podcast before, I do work there as well.
Yes,
but that is a passion job, and also, as I always have to make clear in this podcast, all opinions are our own.
Yes,
both of us, so don't reflect our employers and blah blah blah. So,
but we only speak positivity on this podcast.
We generally do, unless it's Mason Mount we're talking about in this case.
That's for the Todd Bowley era podcast.
I'm looking forward to that. So the first bit I want to get, what we're going to cover today, I suppose, and then we'll get into it. Is we'll talk a little bit about our experiences with Leverkusen, although we've kind of touched on that already. Yeah. I want to get on to this whole thing of I've entitled the section of this "Always the Bridesmaid, Never the Bride." The romance of Bayer Leverkusen, which is really what made me fall in love with them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely your expert topic.
I love that kind of stuff, man. I love football folklore. And there is some beautiful stories in this. It really reads like an epic poem. The history of Bayer Leverkusen.
Looking forward to it.
Talk a bit about the fans, because it is a very unique fan base. It's so unique. I've never seen, and obviously everyone says that about their team, but I really mean that with Leverkusen. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
And then I want to talk a little bit about those technical players, blah blah blah, and the ones we liked, and then finish up with a quick look ahead to the season coming up, or the one that's just started, I suppose. So we'll go from the start then. Experience with Leverkusen. I'm more curious to hear yours at the start, because obviously we've been to games together, we've done a lot of stuff together. But
I was already mentioned about why Leverkusen came to be one of my favourite clubs. I don't know. I think mine's quite short, because I've been to 6 games now, and. Yeah, I mean, Champions League games, yeah. Bundesliga games.
Monaco game? Or
Porto, yeah.
Monaco's Europa League,
Bundesliga, and of course the friendly against West Ham.
Great.
But it is such a good day out. Like from like the quality of football. Like of course you're watching last season, especially some of the best players. Musa Diaby. Of course, there's still Frimpong there, and when Wirtz came back from injury, like it's really good players.
Keep it on that tradition.
And they will all go on to play for some of the best clubs in Europe.
Not before they win some stuff with Leverkusen, though.
Fingers crossed. Yes.
We'll get on that.
And for me, like the atmosphere, I think that's one of the things that's very different between English and German football is the atmosphere, and Bayer Leverkusen definitely do deliver a good atmosphere. Like
they do.
The fans, especially in the Nordkurve, is so good.
Do you remember the Roma game?
Yeah, the flares.
The flares and everything, man. That was that was one of the most intense atmospheres.
Yeah.
Also for one of the worst football matches I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was. I think we'll talk about that game a bit later, but that was very
the semi-final. Yeah. Oh,
Mourinho ball.
Oh, that broke my heart. That game.
But no, it's such an enjoyable experience, and like I think, like I said, I think it's probably the same for a lot of German clubs, especially towards instead of English football. But Leverkusen is just because it's like I said, it's like a small club, but then the fans are so passionate. Like it really does have like an extra touch to it.
Yeah.
And from my experience, from the way the clubs run, I have had a bit less fan interaction, but how the clubs run is very international,
very much
very
so,
open.
Seems, yeah. But also with respect to its culture, though, and its working class roots, which I like as well. They're very grounded in their German culture, but they are very open-minded as a club.
Yeah, but I mean, in the sense of like they have like, of course, the websites in English, which is also very useful.
Yeah,
there's also
Spanish as well.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Of course, the social media.
A lot of the services in the club are offered in multi languages. Yeah,
of course. So I really like that as well.
Always had a lot of foreign players, which has been great. Very international squad. Historically, a very international squad.
Of course.
Throughout the time. So,
but I think one of my highlights for me when I ever go to the Bayer Arena, especially when in the summer, whenever it's sunny, is the beer garden. Like,
man, that's
I have
so
never
good.
Seen that in a football stadium.
I've never seen that either before. The beer garden is brilliant. Actually, this year it's now. I don't know if I told you this. I haven't seen it now because I don't go to that part very often. But in the beer garden corner, said that 4 times. The food there is now all vegetarian and vegan. I'll get there eventually.
Okay.
So it's the vegan corner now.
Interesting.
I don't know if it's uniquely vegetarian and vegan or if they have vegetarian and vegan options there.
Okay.
But they've expanded into that in the food. But yeah, it does. So when you get into the Bayer Arena,
some gluten-free food as well, please.
I know, yeah, that's not quite as cool yet, so we're not quite there.
That's not very popular in Germany.
But yeah, the beer garden,
man. The food as well. So good. Like it's just such a good day out. Like
we can't. Sorry to interrupt you, but we cannot leave this podcast without mentioning how good the chips are. Bayer Leverkusen
chips and the currywurst.
Man, they're so good. They have like the spice blend on them.
So much
I don't know what it is.
Positivity on this podcast,
and it's well priced as well. The food, I think they had a small rise in prices this year, but
everywhere it has
like a pint over there is still what €4.90 down at Leverkusen.
I mean,
delicious pint of fruit kush for less than £5.
At Wembley, you'd pay eight quid. £8 for like
a bottle
of Budweiser.
Oh man,
Budweiser.
Man. That's €10 for a bottle of Bud.
Yeah,
that should be illegal.
Wild.
The beer garden is an excellent shout. I didn't even put that in my notes, but that is top 5 best things about Bayer Leverkusen is the beer garden of the stadium.
But for me, I'm just looking forward to going to more games. Of course, I want to
especially this year,
get to know the fans more. I'd love to go to some away games. I haven't experienced that. Maybe you're going to touch on that in a bit. The away games.
But
I'm really enjoying being able to watch a great club with good fans and also very welcoming. And of course, like I said, the food and drink. It just makes a really good day out, which I'd recommend to anyone who's...
The experience is great.
If you're ever going to come over to... I think most people, if they come to watch German football, they go to Dortmund. They'll go to... of course. Yeah. I think even Cologne, like a lot of people go there because, like, I know we can't go too much into Cologne topic, but people will go there.
Yeah, they will.
But people will go there because, like, this historically very famous.
And they're big cities as well, so they've got airports nearby.
Yeah, of course.
I think people don't realise that Leverkusen where it actually is.
And it's so close,
It's essentially right bang in the middle between Cologne and Dusseldorf. It's so easy to get to.
Yeah.
But because we don't see Leverkusen airport, we assume it's a big city. It's not. It's a very small town of about 160,000 people. So it's not got that immediate pull. Actually, to borrow a phrase from the guy who runs the UK Leverkusen fan club, he always said it was the best kept secret in the Bundesliga.
The best what?
The best kept secret.
Okay, yeah.
Which I wholeheartedly agree with, because you do see, if you go to like the likes of London Stansted or Dublin Airport on a Saturday morning, you'll see loads of lads going for a German football day.
Yeah.
Very rarely is it Leverkusen.
Yeah, that's the thing. So of course, I'd recommend it because I enjoy it. But good luck this season, because I think it's going to be a very good season. So I think getting tickets is going to be tricky.
Yeah,
and
big sellouts this year.
And, very happy for the locals, so they can experience.
There's a buzz going about this club, man.
Hopefully they can experience a good season, especially for the die-hard fans.
Oh.
But anything you want to add?
From my experience, I've been there, done that. Go to the mall.
You know me. Moving on.
Yeah, but I do want to get into this now. So I'm assuming you're a bit aware of this as well, about the sort of tradition of Bayer Leverkusen. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Essentially,
yes.
Finishing second.
Especially, I think.
Now, we talked about our good friend, obviously, that looks like he's dead, but he's not. Our Lord and Saviour, Michael Ballack, who has, I think on my last counting, had 11 cup final or 11 silver medals.
I don't think he's had any more since, but
a good few of them are with Leverkusen, so we have to understand the sort of history.
Yeah.
One of the
maybe he's played some like Masters football after retiring. Probably lost some, but
I'd say he's got and number 13 as well. How ironic.
Yes.
But a lot of them are with Leverkusen, where he had 2 stints at, and Leverkusen have a bit of a history of finishing second. So one of the most shocking things I learned about Leverkusen, again, you see them on TV all the time, you see them in cup finals, you assume they've won so much. They've only won 2 major trophies in their career.
That's also saying that also,
and it's 30 years since the last one. German Cup in 93 and the UEFA Cup in 88, and that's it.
So it's quite, and also within 5 years of each other, so it was a good.
Although only one player won both. Do you know who it is?
Of course, Rüdiger Vollborn.
It is Rüdiger Vollborn, man.
The best stadium tour.
Oh man, his tour was great.
If
we could ever get a guest on this podcast from Leverkusen, I'm getting Vollborn on straight away. I'll pay for a translator, I don't care.
Of course.
But yeah, so they've only ever won 2 trophies, 30 years since the last one. Never won the Bundesliga. Finished second 5 times, most recently 2011. Who was in that team? Mr. Ballack himself. Sorry for the audio listeners, I keep pointing to our picture of Michael Ballack.
And that's after he came back and had some success with Bayern and Chelsea, and then came back and still
some success, like he's still hit and miss still, Mr. Ballack.
Oh, we love him.
Yeah, so they had a lot. One of the big years where that sort of became evident was the 2000 team. That's where it was starting to become in. Christoph Daum was coach. We'll not talk too much about Christoph Daum. Go Google Christoph Daum if you're not German and see what happened to him. It's good reading, but we're not going to go into that kind of topic in this podcast. But in the 2000 season, they went out of the first round of the Cup. They were out in the Champions League group stage, but they did get down to the last day of the season as top of the league. And what happened? They drew on the last day. A draw would have got them. Sorry, a draw would have got them the title. So a draw was all they needed to tip Bayern Munich to it. They lost to a team called Unterhaching, I think you called them. And who scored an own goal?
Michael Ballack.
They lost 2-0. Bayern Munich beat Werder Bremen 3-1, who they also beat in the German Cup final, got the double, and that was that. Christoph Daum did such a good job, he went on to get the Germany job, then didn't get the Germany job. Rudi Völler took over, and that was that.
Probably another story for people to research. Probably.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we're definitely not talking about that in this podcast, actually. I shouldn't have made notes about that. But anyway, that was the precursor to the big year. The big year, 2002. Which a lot of people will recognise. You don't think you recognise it, but you will. Now, I'll give you 1 minute to see if you can do this. I know we're not officially doing trivia here.
Okay.
8 teams in the history of European football have won the treble. So, Champions League, League, and your domestic cup in the same year. Only 8 teams. Go.
So, Man City now?
Man City.
Man United?
Yeah, 99.
Real Madrid?
Nope, never done it.
Barcelona, yes.
Barcelona, yeah.
Bayern Munich?
Bayern Munich have done it twice, I think, actually, yeah.
So that's 4. It's 4 to go.
That's 4 to go.
Celtic,
well done. Only one to do the quadruple as well. Lisbon Lions.
Let's not spend too much time on this one.
Give you one clue. Italy.
Juventus?
No, think
of Milan.
Jose.
Inter. Did the treble yeah. So 2 more. Are they from big leagues?
They're from the same league. And you haven't mentioned this league yet.
Ajax
and PSV. In the year that English teams couldn't compete, they were banned because of fan trouble.
Okay.
So in 2002, Leverkusen came within touch and distance of the treble. This is heartbreaking. So they had the Champions League final, the German Cup final, and they were in contention for the Bundesliga on the last day of the season, all in 1 week. All this happened, and they lost all 3. So the Champions League final, they lost to Real Madrid with that really famous Zidane goal, that was against us. Yeah, so you know that one. And Leverkusen were the better team in that. Lucio scored a great header. It was a brilliant game. Leverkusen really were the stronger team. Came very close to an equaliser at the end. Didn't quite get there.
There's got to be it's got to be more than just bad luck at some point.
It's a bit like the England team as well, isn't it? You know, it like gets in your mind and it becomes it feeds into itself almost. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy in many ways.
I guess, of course, also on that topic, for a lot, I think 5 of the Leverkusen players were part of the
World Cup team.
Germany World Cup squad.
So 5 weeks after losing 3 cups, they went on to lose another one with Germany.
In the final.
Rudy Feller was the coach.
I think Ballack was suspended for the final, I think.
Yeah, there was something about that, wasn't there? Yeah, did he get suspended in the final or did he get suspended for the final?
I think he
one of the two.
Final, But 5 Leverkusen players. Bad luck continued.
Yeah, but Hamelov, Ballack, Schneider, and Neuvel. Although Hans-Jörg Butt, one of my favourite players, actually has scored quite a few goals. He's a goalkeeper. Took the penalties, which is really cool. So wherever he went, he was the penalty taker.
One of the things I remember, maybe it was when he was playing for Leverkusen, but he scored a penalty and then didn't get back in goal in time, and the team scored.
Oh, really?
From kickoff.
Oh, I don't know that one. I have to check that out. Leverkusen have a weird thing with penalties as well. A lot of different people take penalties over there last year. Tapsoba is a great penalty taker, centre half. Really they had a couple. So they lost another Bundesliga. The most recent one that they slipped away was 2011. That was Ballack's team, but they had players like Arturo Vidal.
The manager was Jupp Heynckes. And then he went to Bayern after that, I think.
So Michael Ballack, Arturo Vidal, Sami Hyypiä, Stefan Kiesling, Simon Rolfes, Tranquilla Bernetta. They had an amazing team.
Was a really good player.
And another one. And then the most recent heartbreak is probably the semi-final against Roma last year. I'm only saying that now. We didn't finish second, obviously, in the Europa League. We should have at least got second. We should have been in that final.
Of course, the final
would have been
against Sevilla. I get
it. Wound up. And
the final would have been against Sevilla, who of course have serious European pedigree, but they were having a pretty poor season until second half of the season they got a lot better.
They always do. They get their second win.
I think they would have I think Bayer Leverkusen would have been a lot more positive against them when Roma were. Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen compared to
Jose's Roma.
Like in the final would have been a lot different.
That game against Roma. So we lost 1-0 in Rome, and then the second leg back in Leverkusen, the figures on that, I wish I had them here, but like the figures of the ball possession.
0 shots.
0 shots, I think, on target, and 1 shot overall, I think, in the entire game.
1 shot, that's crazy.
I remember Tammy Abraham hitting 1 shot in the whole game. I remember having a pop at it. It was the most awful game of football.
Leverkusen really were lacking the number 9.
Injury to Patrick Schick, and no Boniface as we have now. There was just
Asmund wasn't really cutting it.
It felt like one step too far, but it's any other team in the world, I think we would have fancied our chances. But Jose Mourinho, as we know, he's an expert in this kind of thing. When he's your manager, you love him for it. When you're against him, there's nothing more frustrating on the earth than losing to Jose parking the bus. So Leverkusen have this great romance of finishing second.
Yes.
And we do know it's been 30 years since the last trophy. They've had so many second places, so many nearlies. Maybe this is the year. I hope it is. We'll touch wood on that one because you have to say that very quietly around these parts. But I think the romance of it in general is it's what attracted me to the club anyway. Certainly the 2002 team. The unofficial name the British press give them were Bayer Leverkusen, where they never win. That is obviously unfair.
Horrible.
But if you want to go Google that
typical
team
British press.
and see the football they played, man. That team had so many good players. Had the
so
Brazilians.
many players that then, of course, and who knows if they won.
And might have stayed at Leverkusen.
What could have changed?
Well, sure, Lucio, Juan, Roberto, Emerson, Ballack, they all went to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Those are the core of the team.
Yeah.
And if they had stayed a few years longer, Dimitar Berbatov was young, knocking about in that time as well.
It's crazy.
A couple more years out of them. If they won one of those trophies even, they could have held on. That could have been a dynasty building up. But, what could have there? Shoulda, woulda, coulda. But that's part of the romance.
Yes, and I think in the next part we'll dive into some of those players probably.
Oh yeah.
And of course, a bit about what this season could bring. But I think firstly we're going to talk about the fans.
Yeah. But we'll take a short break quickly.
Yes. So, of course, as we mentioned before, it's now time to go into the Bayer Leverkusen fans. I think I already mentioned earlier that when I was younger, I always assumed that they were one of the biggest clubs in the sense of success and
quality of football they were playing.
And of course, like I said, they are very well supported. But like I said, they are quite unique, the fan base.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. Yeah. It's strange to people who aren't from there. People in Germany, especially this region, know very well what the score is with Leverkusen and what it is as a town and what the history is behind the place. But us, we don't get this. Again, we see such a successful team and think, oh, they're just like the other teams, and they're not.
Yeah.
One of the most important, or I think the two most important things to remember about the Leverkusen support is, one, Leverkusen is a small town. It's 160,000 people. It's sort of situated just north of Cologne, south of Dusseldorf, and it was mainly built to house factory workers.
In comparison, like Leverkusen, I think in most people's eyes are assumed as a big club who've had very close to success in the last 20 years. 160,000, whereas Cologne have been flirting with relegation many years, got relegated. Cologne's a city of over 1 million people.
Exactly. And they're bang beside each other. Like they're bang beside each other, and they have a fierce rivalry. So no one from Cologne's going to Leverkusen to watch a game except us. We're the only two that go up. I get that all the time. By the way, do you get that when you come to Cologne and you say you support Leverkusen? The reactions I get here, man.
Really? Yeah.
Because I wear the shirt everywhere. I don't care, and I get people going, "But you're Irish and you support."
I get football rivalry, but when it becomes like just, I don't know, abusive, it's just I don't get.
There's a line to it, a bit of light-hearted, I was in Hamburg for the game.
Banter, but
I went to the game in Hamburg last week, and I was chatting to a few older lads in German. And then they're like, oh, you've got an accent, where are you from? Ireland, like, why is an Irish guy supporting Leverkusen? But they were in a nice way. They're like, how do you even come across us? And I was like, well, tune into the England B Team podcast in 3 weeks, lads, and you'll find out. But so it's a small town. It was built to house workers from the Bayer factory, which is an important thing. So really quickly, I want to get through this, but I think it's so important to the club. Bayer, not to be confused with Bayern. Bayern is the German word for Bavaria. Bayer is a company, and if you want to know what kind of company they are, well, you can see on my jersey they make aspirin. If you're in the UK, turn over anything in your bathroom, go into your bathroom cupboard, look at the back of it, it'll probably say Bayer on it. So Rennie's, all that kind of stuff, you find it, it'll be on the back.
Huge.
Now, contrary to popular belief, they are not like RB Leipzig. What does the RB stand for?
Rasenball Sport.
Rasenball Sport. Not allowed to put the name of a company in your team in German football.
Yes.
We're exempt from that. So Bayer Leverkusen, they have the name
of the heritage of the club.
Exactly. So the club was founded as a factory club. You worked in the factory, you did sport, you came over. Founded in 1904. Not unlike half the teams in Northern England back in the day who were founded as factory clubs. Like a lot of them were founded. What was United's old name? What do you call Newton Heath?
Yeah,
that was a factory, wasn't it, as well, when they wore the green and gold?
Yeah. So like I said, just the name changed, but they've had the same sort of origins.
Yeah,
like, it's not. And I was going to say Dortmund. Were Dortmund a factory club?
Oh, good question. Well, it's the heavily industrial region.
In a brewery, but I'm not sure if they're a factory club. But yeah, like, it's not uncommon.
No, it's not.
It's just uncommon for a team to have the name of the sponsor in the
but
name.
Leverkusen have a very close attachment to that because in the town it's mainly the Bayer factory.
Yeah.
Obviously there's lots of things in it, but the Bayer factory is enormous.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time was built to house workers there, so they all had some kind of connection to the club. Small town as well. So you've got the small industrial town in the middle of the most densely populated region in all of Germany. So that's why within an hour's train of here, who have you got? Like FC Cologne, Fortuna Dusseldorf, Gladbach, Schalke, Dortmund, Bochum.
Yeah.
There's so many teams in the first and second divisions here that are an hour away.
Yeah.
Big cities, like it's a heavily populated region, and they're all very territorial. You know what Germans are like with their football? They don't support teams from other areas. So it wouldn't make... That's why Leverkusen has quite this small, unique support. The Bayer Arena is only 30,000 people.
Yeah. That's also something I kind of took for granted. Like, not for granted, but like you kind of expect like they have a huge stadium, but...
It looks huge.
Yeah.
Even when you go there, you're like, oh, this looks bigger.
It's just the way it's set out.
Perfect design stadium, to be fair.
One thing I did... so like I said, with the Bayer Arena, one thing is you can tell it's a very like... It's got the family aspect to it.
Yeah.
But of course, there's also the fierce like support.
Oh yeah,
it's very tight knit. And actually, do you know, Bayer Leverkusen were the first German club to have ultras?
I did know this. I don't know much about it. No. I read that somewhere, and I want to dig a bit more in that.
Yeah.
Because the ultra cause, I don't even know how you officially. Like what officially classes an ultra as well.
Like an ultra group, I'm not sure.
And that's another thing that's kind of cool about Leverkusen is you're not going to find a lot of their history in English language on the internet.
Actually, that's one thing I actually wanted to add. I made a note of it actually. So anyone who wants to learn more about Bayer Leverkusen, I actually bought a book for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
It's called Bayer 04 Leverkusen, an Introduction by John Alder.
Cool.
Really,
I think you showed me the cover of this actually.
It's quite like a... I also say cheap put together book, but it's like a softback, as we say, not a hard copy, and it's like kind of like a
small
leaflet
publisher
almost. Yeah, but it's really interesting. I haven't looked into it like completely, but it's really good
That's
stuff.
good.
The whole history of Leverkusen, it's all in English. So
cool. There's not many resources in English on Leverkusen. So, that's a good one.
And I really wanted a book about Leverkusen. It's the only one I could find.
There's not many. I've got a couple of great ones in German.
Yeah,
but I'm struggling a wee bit with the German in it, but I'm getting there. But again, not a lot of this is documented. So Leverkusen, it's just
even their Wikipedia page is also very small.
It is. Yeah, it is, and
it's really small.
It's again so weird to us as people watching them on TV growing up, and you go, "This is such a massive, well-known club."
Yeah,
and there's so much about it that's kind of kept in the bubble, and I like that. I wanted to stay in that way. It is its own little place. It's hard to believe when you go to Leverkusen for a match and you see the town, that you're only a couple of minutes away from two major cities, and you're bang in the middle. You don't feel like you're in that. You're in this own little world, its own little culture. They're very proud of it. They're very protective of it, and the football plays a central role in that. Obviously, they do have the Bayer Sports Club. The football team are part of it. Someone once told me the football team is the least successful member of the Bayer Sport. There's the Leverkusen Giants, who were like German champions like 7 years in a row or something ridiculous. Basketball, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
They have a handball team, athletics, all that kind of stuff. Which I find very interesting.
Football
team apparently the ones letting the side down, yeah.
But like I said, like a very intense support, very passionate.
Yeah, which is great. And as you said, then the different sections of the stadium. The Nord Curve, the north side of the stadium, is for the ultras.
Yeah, really amazing.
They are. It's incredible, the atmosphere. But they're very not selective, but they're very wary of who gets into it.
Yeah.
You have to prove your loyalty to the club. They don't want tourists coming into that kind of area. And that's what's nice about going to the Bayer Arena, is there is an area for everybody.
Yeah.
If you're a hardcore fan, you go in with the hardcore fans. You make the noise. You generate the atmosphere.
I'm ready for that yet.
I went to a couple of away games. I'm telling you, it is fierce.
Yeah,
man, those lads are. Like I've been to some pretty good atmospheres now. I've followed Northern Ireland about. I've been to Scottish Old Firm.
Especially a lot of German clubs are very fierce away support.
You wouldn't get that in the Premier League.
No,
the way they behave,
it's so different. Like
it's hardcore, man. It's great fun.
Yeah.
But their away support is a different beast. And they brought I went to that game. Teutonia Ottensen I went to, so like this third division club in the first round of the cup.
I think they're low. I think they're fifth division.
They might be,
super low. Or regional league.
Yeah. Also, if you want a cool read, I'm not talk about it in this podcast, but if you want to read something, go read how you qualify for the German Cup. Because it's not like the FA Cup, there's 64 teams in it. There's an incredibly intricate web of how you get into it as one of the 64 teams.
Yeah, I need to look into this as well.
Well, Teutonia Ottensen got into it.
But I haven't actually looked into it.
I think it's like all the Bundesliga teams, Bundesliga Tech second division, half of the third division, and then different regional winners of different cups get given places, and then the bigger regions get extra allocations, which they will decide as football associations who they give them to.
Interesting.
And then the smaller team, when they're seeded, always plays at home.
Okay.
So Leverkusen went away to Teutonia Ottensen. It was in the St. Pauli Stadium because Ottensen Stadium was too small. There was like maybe 1,000 Ottensen fans in it. We had the away end 3,000 packed out like to the rafters, like a home game, and the atmosphere was electric. I've never seen anything like it. And I think as well, being this year, with so much excitement about the club and so much buzz around it. It's something else. So I will say the Bayer Leverkusen fans, they are unique in that sense. They're really well clued into what their club's about. This is the most shocking thing about it. When you go to a game there, you will be amazed that you're watching a club that plays in the top four of the Bundesliga. It feels like a small town club. I don't mean that in an insult. I mean the familiarity of everybody with everyone. I
think that's what the fans want as well.
It is. It's a well guarded secret. They're careful about who they let in, and when you get in, it is a proper. It feels like going to watch football in the 70s in many ways, where that the community aspect is still very much at the core. You go to watch big Premier League teams these days, you know what it is. It's corporate and it's sucked out. The stadium's probably the least fun place to be.
There's like positives and negatives of each aspect.
Of course, yeah. But for that,
this is what Bayer Leverkusen fans
it's
want.
Special.
And they love it, and it works really well.
And I feel like as well, if you want to see real German culture, you get over to that. Also, quick note in the fans, they organise a lot of stuff themselves. They have a lot of fan clubs. They have the Nord Curve 12
and stuff. And
so they'll do like subsidised travel for fans. They'll do like a lot of community outreach projects. They're very active in the community. One of the things I have to shout out, because I was amazed when I found this, is if you ever find yourself in Leverkusen, there is a football route that they've designed, different parts around the city, where they've got like different monuments, sculptures, pieces of history from the football club. You can do it walking or cycling around Leverkusen, fully built by the fans. Found their own funding for it, not with the football club at all. That's their own thing.
That happened in England.
I can't imagine like Chelsea fans being organised, or any English club being organised enough to do something to that level across an entire town. So again, that's what really makes them special. So really cool. The fans is one big thing I'm going to give a shout out to. I'm in the UK fan club, which I adore. And if there's anyone in the UK you're curious about going to Bayer Leverkusen, I suggest trying to get to a match, reading a bit about them, find out more, get to a game, maybe get in contact with them if you start to enjoy the club. Or if you are a fan already in the UK, get in touch with the UK fan club because they are superb.
There we go.
I feel like I'm advertising for them. No, I'm not. I'm just a big fan, man. By the way, I'm not drinking alcohol. Just pointing this out. Okay. This is a Mio Cola Zero.
Fancy cola.
It is very fancy nice. Cola. I'm on a sugar high here, man. Bayer Leverkusen and caffeine has got me going.
You're on one today.
Right. Okay. Let's do our next section quickly.
Yes.
We want to talk about the cult players. These lads that you love.
So you kind of mentioned it as like Bayer Leverkusen have a very strong history of very technical, skilled players that are just somehow the clubs always seem to find. That's one of the things I noticed is that, of course, the clubs they have their academy players, like most famously in the recent years, I guess, Havertz and Wirtz.
Local boys within the region.
But also when they buy players externally, they're always so good, and like they get them so cheap and stuff. Which is one kind of disappointing thing is that a lot, of course, happens a lot in the Bundesliga, especially now with the buying power of the Premier League. But they always buy such good players for cheap and sell them for more, which of course is good for the club, keep the club stable financially. But just imagine what could happen if they had these players.
Yeah. If Bayer Leverkusen could have held on, if they could hold on to their best players for even the last 10 years, they'd have one of the best squads in Europe.
Yeah. So what sort of players throughout the history of Leverkusen are you most fond of?
Well, it's that again, you said it, the technical thing. They're stylish, they're cool, they're good to watch players, and that seems to be a big part. One of my favourite players as a young kid was definitely Xavi Hernandez. Chicharito. Man, I was mad for him, and I didn't like United players very often, but Chicharito I loved him, and he went to Leverkusen and he was great there.
Yeah,
and he's that player, he's diminutive, he's clever.
The
little P, the wee P, man. He was so good. And then one of my absolute favourites is Berbatov.
Yeah. It's just
watching videos of Berbatov just trapping the ball.
I don't actually remember too much about him at Leverkusen.
It was early days. He's actually the third record goal scorer.
Tottenham, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's a hero, right?
Like he left at a young age, but yeah, as I said, it's Ulf Kirsten first, Kiesling second, then Berbatov. Very considering he left there like his mid-20s, latest, that's a big achievement.
And then smashed it at Tottenham and United.
Man, I could watch videos.
Probably the most technically skilled player.
One of the best I've seen. That
the first touch is just
reminds me a little bit again of Kai Havertz.
Yeah, that's what Kai Havertz.
You can put on that
should
vein.
Have been, will be. Like sometimes you see something like there's one. Havertz is one of the players I didn't want to go into detail about. We've done that lots of times.
Yeah.
But like one of my favourite players in recent years, of course, with Chelsea and Leverkusen. But like he had a bit of like a Berbatov-esque style of play, but just
almost looked lazy.
Didn't have the consistency. That's the thing. Like it's not laziness, and he works super hard, just without the consistency.
I know, it was such a shame.
I really want. I'm caught in two minds.
He's still young.
I don't want Arsenal to do well, but I want him to do well.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Also, apart from my ego, because I've been bigging him up for years.
You have, yeah. So have I. To be fair, I love him, man. He scored the Champions League final goal for us as well. Yeah. So, and he was loved at Leverkusen. They were mad for him. I think he was their youngest player ever until I think Florian Wirtz broke that.
Yeah.
So I think I have to check that.
Broke a load of his records, I think.
Yeah, and again, but you can see the link between. You can pull on that thread and see the connection between a player like Florian Wirtz and Kai Havertz. Yeah. Similar kind of technical players going right up to now. They still have that mold of player.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is deliberate or how much of it's club culture or training, but no matter who the manager is for the last at least 30 years, that's always happened.
It always works.
We've had these great technical, small, clever attacking players, and then great history of Brazilians. The most represented nationality after German at the club is Brazilian.
That's really cool.
Loads of them.
Roberto.
Lucio, Juan, Emerson, the other Jorginho, not the one that plays for Arsenal.
Okay.
Paulo Sergio, Wendell. Artur's the new one now.
Yeah.
I think there's 16 of them or 15. Oh, I'm going to forget some important one. Tita, not the one that coached Brazil, the other one.
Okay. Yeah, there's plenty.
Yeah. And then, so like, have you got the same kind of players? Or what kind of players come to mind when you think of a...
So I had, of course, Balak Havertz, Berbatov, Augusto, I mentioned him already.
Yeah.
Tony Kroos,
he was there, yeah.
Before.
And there was some kind of saga about him going. Was it not? He went to Munich because they were trying to replace Xabi Alonso.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I think that was signed that time.
Like
there was some kind of connection with that.
I think.
which will now come poetically back. Toni Kroos is a wonderful player. Son, Young-min Son.
Yeah. Leon Bailey.
Oh man, at Leverkusen he was so good.
Do you know World Cup winner Christoph Kramer? He was also at Leverkusen.
True, yeah. Was he not a coach as well, Leverkusen, for a while?
No, he's still playing now at Mönchengladbach, but he's on TV a lot.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. He's on TV. That's what it is.
One player who I really unbelievable technique. I can't remember if he was at Leverkusen before or after Hamburg. But it was Çalhanoğlu.
Oh yeah, that was good few years ago.
Like his technique was incredible at free kicks. Like
he scored some mad goals.
He scored that crazy like knuckleball free kick from the halfway line against Dortmund. I think it was for Hamburg.
That wasn't for Leverkusen.
But incredible.
That's a good one. You've dug out a good one there.
One striker that I really remember, who actually did play for Cologne as well, so I hope it's okay to mention, but Patrick Helms.
Yeah.
I remember him from FIFA.
That's a good one. Yeah, he was good in FIFA. There's really a few players who are good at FIFA.
Actually, also one thing on the Leverkusen topic is I used to love using them on FIFA.
That was something I forgot to say as well. Yeah. I loved getting them on FIFA.
I think we could definitely do an episode on like football games, Football Manager, FIFA, and stuff.
They're a lot of fun in FIFA too. Football Manager too. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's a good shout actually.
Patrick Helms, I remember him really well. Really
Bernd
good goal scoring
Leno.
record.
Shout out for Bernd Leno. When he was at Leverkusen, they loved him there.
Yeah.
Like I know what he's at Fulham now, isn't he?
He's at Fulham, and I saw loads of Leverkusen fans on Twitter today were trying to say like, why is he not in the German team for the recent call-up?
Yeah, man.
Like,
I'm a man. I was always
love for him.
Big fan of Bernd Leno. He was great tradition of goalkeepers as well. To much an extent.
Really
Obviously, Lucas Radecki there now. They've just signed that young fella from United.
Kova.
Yeah. Who has have you seen his accent when he speaks?
No.
Because is he Czech Republic? I think he's Czech.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
But he speaks with like a half Czech, half thick Mancunian accent.
Nice.
It's gorgeous, man. He's a really cool guy by the looks of it. But yeah, so this tradition of these technical, stylish, comfortable on the ball players, they've always had it. Every year, if I go back to the early 2000s, you're talking the likes of Berbatov and Emerson and Roberto and even Ballack doing Sam was a very stylish player in his own right. Bernd Schneider, another great one, Carson Hamanov. And then you go up to the mid 2000s and then you have Son and Kroos, and then even the team I think I most remember would be the Havertz, Julian Brandt, Kevin Volland. That was the team I really got to watch.
Aaron Guiz as well.
Aaron Guiz was one of my favourites. So the way he ended his career, it's so many bad luck with injuries, man.
Yeah.
Bless him, because he was a baller, man.
This is crazy.
And it's going on now. You've seen the thread continue. Xabi Alonso seems to be the perfect coach in many ways for that.
This season, I think we're going to go into that next, aren't we? But
well, shall we just get on to it now then?
What's your expectations?
Oh, man. Now, I'm quite new to Leverkusen in this set. I think I've been supporting
you're also very optimistic, of course, in the previous episode. You predicted Chelsea to win the league.
Okay, I think I messed up on that one.
Do you want to say the same for Leverkusen?
Well, I don't know if I want to say that and then I'll end up cursing them, so I have to be very careful because I've obviously cursed Chelsea.
But I think one place I'd like to start with is just talking about Xabi Alonso.
Yeah.
What a manager.
He's turned it round, man.
Yeah.
He's turned it round, considering where they were when he came in. Struggling at the bottom of the league, already out of the cup in the first round.
He also kind of came from not much experience. Like, he was at Real Sociedad B team. Yeah.
He was heavily linked with Gladbach, you remember?
Gladbach didn't happen in the end, didn't materialise. But,
thank God, yeah.
What a job he's done. Again, I think we mentioned
it round, man.
In one of our previous episodes again that he's from that part of Basque country where there's
Lopetegui's from
there. Lopetegui, Arteta, Emery, and Iriola, the new Bournemouth manager. Like, it's just his... Yeah.
Or Lopetegui as well. We should probably mention from our predictions. We made that prediction episode. It went out live, and then the next day he got sacked.
I said that he'd gone by Christmas. So
well, you were right, I suppose. Yeah. At least our episode got out before he got sacked. True, I think it was out for like an hour, and then the news hit up, and you're like, "Oh, they must have watched our episode." Then.
But yeah, I'm really excited to see what Xabi Alonso can do with his team this season.
I just pray he stays, man. He's so good, but I think he seems very invested in this project.
Ancelotti leaving Madrid at the end of the season.
Well, I think with it, as a Leverkusen fan, you do take things year at a year. You just can't look too far in the future. That's always been the way. Yeah. So if he stays to the end of the season, we'll see what happens.
Klopp and Liverpool as well. He's looking at his older clubs like Liverpool, Madrid. Well,
you have to ask if Real Madrid come knocking, can you resist the call?
Yeah.
If you're Xabi Alonso, but he does seem incredibly dedicated to the project he's got now, and it is a project.
Job.
Like a big shout out as well to Simon Rolfes, who's sort of in charge of the transfers or heavily involved with the transfers at the club.
Director. Or
and they're doing like the transfers this year.
Yeah,
I am so
obviously
looking
forward to seeing play this season.
There's a few. But the one that's most surprised me is Boniface, Victor Boniface. So I saw him play for Union Saint-Gilloise when we played them in the Europa League. And all the Leverkusen fans were like, we've got to sign this guy. He looks great. Now, he came in relatively cheap. I think he was 22 million.
Yeah, and this market is...
And he's already banged in a few goals. So at the time of this recording, we're two games into the Bundesliga.
Yes.
We'll be 3 in by the time this comes out.
Yes, and then tomorrow will be the Europa League draw, which should be tomorrow from when we're recording.
Yeah. So Boniface has already scored a handful of goals for Leverkusen. He's came in, obviously not meant to be the number... Well, he probably will, but not the starting number 9. I think they would envisage when Patrick Schick gets back from his long-term injury. But the way he's playing now, so Boniface, Granit Xhaka,
so confident as well.
Oh man,
really confident.
He just looks. He was born. Remember we saw him against West Ham. I think he scored twice. He could have scored about 5.
Yeah,
he just kept going, turning around the goalkeepers, jumping over things, man.
But I do about to say Xhaka. Like
Xhaka's so.
Of course, Arsenal wasn't the biggest fan of him for many.
He plays for Arsenal.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But he's especially for the job he wants to do for Bayer Leverkusen. He'll be such a good signing. Grimaldo as well.
Grimaldo looks the bizzle,
really
man.
good player
looks the
on a
bizzle.
free transfer.
And again, that's like we talked about this, and I think a lot of football fans say this: is if you're going to seriously launch a title challenge, you need to make sure you have 2 players for every position. Essentially, now it's looking like that. You know, they've brought in They've brought in Tella from Southampton to cover in the wide positions as well. So they've got that. They've got 2 strikers in the midfield. You've got Andrich Palacios and Xhaka. In centre half now, you've got the new guy on loan from Bayern Munich, Stanisic. Sorry, you've also
he can also play right back as well.
Yeah, and you've got Tapsoba, Kosno, Hincapie, who I rate so highly on the right wing back.
Fosu Mensah still there?
On right wing back, you've got Fosu Mensah, Frimpong, and Artur, and then on left wing back, you've got Grimaldo and someone else.
Artur played left wing back.
He can. Puertas came in as well. It's just been a great summer for them, and now I think the transfer deadline is tomorrow night 11 o'clock.
Yes.
So we can't say for sure that the transfer business is done. But there's been a couple of rumours about what's going to happen next, but they've strengthened in every position.
Like, it's really good.
So unless there's
a goalkeeper earlier as well, so
an extra goalkeeper in there, we've moved a couple of goalkeepers on, but obviously our starting choice goalkeepers, Lukas Radecki, club captain.
I guess the only negative of the summer was losing DRB.
One of them was going to go, I think we always knew. But Jonas Hoffmann was
Hoffmann, of course, such a good signing.
To replace Diaby.
Staying is
Florian Wirtz
as well.
Florian Wirtz this year, I think, genuine contender for one of the best players in Europe. If Leverkusen can come on and do something big, it's going to rely a lot on Wirtz because he is such a special talent. I would say, looking at him now, he looks better to me than Havertz did at the same age. I think we're looking something a little bit more special than that. It's a really big team. The squad depth is there.
It's a big call,
exciting football. Scoring goals already. 2 tough games already. Leipzig and Gladbach away is not an easy game.
Not at all.
Kind of walked it in the end, to be totally honest. I'm going to touch wood in this. So predictions. I'm going to touch wood 100 times. I'm going to say I'm positive.
Okay.
I'm not going to predict anything.
I think your predictions will be a bit more
honourable
than mine, but I'm going to go 3rd place. Pokal winner.
We take that.
And
we take that.
I can't predict Europa League, depends on the draw and stuff. But I'd say minimum, it's got to be semi-final again, surely.
Okay. Well,
there's so many good teams. Liverpool in Europa League this season, for example.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's so hard to look past Bayern in the Bundesliga.
It is. I'm not going to predict anything concrete, but I will say I'm predicting better than that.
Okay, there we go.
I'm just going to say, we talked already about treble winners. I'm just going to say, bear that in mind. But I'm not going to say any more than that.
There we go.
I wouldn't say anything more. Much. But I know I'm not jinxing them because I'm afraid to. But let's just say, this might be the year you should. If you're going to watch any team in German football, keep an eye on Leverkusen this year.
For sure.
Now, obviously, I'm biased, but just keep. We're rolling. So I hope that feels like a passionate podcast that we've
I think people are going to enjoy this one, and we need to promote this to the Leverkusen fans.
Yeah,
hopefully they'll
get more people
accept us into their group as well.
Yeah, man, I want to. Get me. I want to be the main ultra. I'm going to be at the front holding the flag up. Yeah, I'm going to take my shirt off and get Leverkusen tattooed across my back, man. I love it. I'm totally in love with this club. I'm totally committed to it. This was an episode I was dying to do,
and you got it,
and we've done it now.
You,
so
I enjoyed it as well.
We've had a blast. This has been a fun episode.
Really enjoying following Leverkusen, especially like I said earlier. I can't go to Chelsea games, so it's really nice to have a team that I'm really interested in.
Yeah,
but of course the experience is also fantastic. So,
would you say you're in love? Is it love?
Chelsea's my only love. I can't.
Spoken like a true politician.
I can't.
I'm polyamorous when it comes to football.
But I think I'll leave it at that. I think.
Yeah, well, I think we should. No, I think we've dug deep into Leverkusen.
How are you going to sign off your love letter?
Oh, that's a great question. How do you sign off? I've never actually written a love letter. That's a lie. I'm a very romantic man. But you're not seeing that. You have to sign up to our Patreon to get that kind of content.
That's something for one day, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll not get in there.
How do you sign off your love letter? Let's just say by Leverkusen.
Forever yours.
That's what you're going to say. I'm going to say I've got your back.
Oh, true romantic. Right, well, on that note, we're getting the fuck out of here. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to get onto the social media.
Give
us a like on that. We're
Instagram,
flying at the minute.
Twitter,
we're kind of a big
TikTok.
deal now.
So famous.
We're a bit famous now. Go check out the games on there. Don't forget to comment. Okay, leave comments in the videos. Let us know you watch
how
this.
bad Gareth football knowledge is.
Yeah, okay, I'm bad at that stuff. Okay, but comment on the video as well if you watch this podcast. If you're listening to it somewhere. Also, did you notice the upgrade in our studio here? I hope the audio listeners have listened to it. An upgrade in the audio quality. The video watchers will see we got 2 microphones now. No expense spared here in the England B Team podcast. Only the best.
Everything for you guys.
Only the best. If we're going to talk about Leverkusen, we're going to do it right.
Of course.
We're getting rid of this. Is only on rental. We're bringing that back. Right.
Anyway, guys.
Done.
Yes.
Right. Cheerio, guys. We will see you soon.
Thank you very much. See you soon. Ciao.